very easy way to solve that. Talk to a scientist, why don't you? There are some good ones here at the university. They could tell you what's going on. But it's important that we take this seriously, not only because it is going to affect the lives of every one of us alive, but most importantly our children, our grandchildren, but because if we do this right, we can create millions of new jobs and businesses. You know, every year, Senator Harry Reid has a big conference about clean energy here in Nevada. I've spoken at it, my husband's spoken at it. Why does he do that? Because he wants people to understand the economic opportunities that are available. You know, it is possible if we invest in wind and solar, advanced biofuels, geothermal, you name it, we can not only begin to reverse the effects of climate change, but we can begin to build our economy in a totally different way. You here in Nevada are doing just that. You've got that big battery factory going in. You've been investing in more solar. In the hotel I stayed in before the debate, I was looking out the window and I saw these solar panels. Driving around today, going to different events, I saw a lot of places with solar panels. Well, I'm setting some big goals for my presidency. By the end of my first term, I want us to have employed 500 million more solar panels to be installed across America. And by the end of my second, I want us to generate enough clean, renewable energy to power every home in America. That is the kind of economic program that will put people to work. When somebody tells you they're worried about jobs going overseas, well, if we do infrastructure at home and we do clean energy at home, those jobs have to be done right here in the United States of America. Now, I also believe, though, we got to change the tax system. I am sick and tired of corporations getting big tax breaks and loopholes and all the rest of it to ship jobs out of America. We need to take away the tax breaks from those corporations and use that money to rebuild our economy right here at home. We need to do whatever we can to raise wages, starting by raising the minimum wage, which has been too low for too long. I know there are people in this audience who work for the minimum wage here, right? I know that. The federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour, is a disgrace. Nobody who works full-time should be left in poverty at the end of their working week. So we are going to raise the minimum wage to the highest level it has ever been, back to where it was in 1968. Because since then, we've been on a downward slope. And we're also going to do more to invest in apprenticeship programs, in job training programs. I was at the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades today, looking at how they train their young apprentices. I was so impressed. I know we can train tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to do the jobs that clean energy and infrastructure building require. Now, I'll tell you, there's one other thing that'll raise wages, and it'll raise wages across the board in America, and that is to make sure women get equal pay for equal work. You know, I have to tell you, it's a little embarrassing to be talking about doing this in 2015. But it hasn't been done yet, and a lot of people are losing money because of it. You know, I met a young man last week in New Hampshire who came up to me and he said, "I want to tell you why I'm for you." I said, "Thank you, why?" He said, "I'll tell you. My first job," he was 17 years old, he told me. He got hired to be a cashier in a store near where he lived. He kind of got the job because his mom had been working there for 4 years. And she was doing the same job as a cashier. He was really proud. You know, first real job, you go to work, and he came back, got his first paycheck, showed his mom, and she noticed something. Her son was making $1 more an hour after 1 week than she was making after 4 years. Now, I tell you that story because this young man had no reason to make it up. He wanted to tell me why he was for me. He said, I never thought about it before. He said, it's wrong. My mom works really hard. She was raising me. And she should be paid at the same level as any man, including her 17-year-old son. Equal pay is an issue because it's not just a woman's issue. It's a family issue. It's an economic issue. There will be more money in the economy when women are paid fairly for themselves and for their families. And we also need to look at how hard it is to balance family and work. You know, a lot of young parents struggle with that, don't you? I think we should join the rest of the advanced world and have paid leave so that when you have a new baby, when you have a sick relative, you don't lose your job, but you also don't lose your pay for a period of time. You're able to fulfill your family responsibilities. Some people say, well, we can't afford that, but California's been doing this. Connecticut just did paid sick days. Other states are doing it, and it hasn't affected the way that the Republicans say it will for employment. So we've got to take a hard look about what are families like today, not what they were like 50 years ago. What are they like today? And how do we help them do the most important job, which is taking care of each other, while they also do their job making a living? I think it's really important that the tax system be changed so that the wealthy pay more than they're paying right now. I don't think it's right that a millionaire can pay a lower tax rate than a teacher. I just don't think that's right. I agree with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett said every millionaire should have to pay at least 30%. Because right now, a lot of them are not paying 15%. And a lot of companies aren't paying anything. So part of the job that I will take on as your president is to get the wealthy to pay more and give the middle class a tax cut. Give the middle class that is working hard and doing the best you can in the face of the pressures you face, more of a chance to be able to make ends meet. Since your pay hasn't gone up, but the price of everything else has, I think that's exactly what we need to do. You know, the Republicans seem to forget that what makes America great and what makes our economy strong is the middle class. You know, it's the middle class who built this country. It's the middle class that does most of the work. It's the middle class that has to get up every day and take care of their families and their jobs. And I think it's time we start rebuilding the middle class, giving you the tools that you need to make the most out of your own lives, at home and at work. And I'll tell you what else would really help us in the economy, and that is to get comprehensive immigration reform finally taken care of. I really don't like what the Republicans are saying about immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants. We were built by immigrants. Every one of us, you go back grandparents, great-grandparents, we have somebody who came to this country. And aren't we glad they did? And aren't we relieved that we have the benefit of their hard work? My grandfather came to this country as just a little boy. He was a factory worker. He worked really hard. He didn't ask for much. He made a good living by those standards in those days because of his hard work, but he wanted his kids to have a better chance. And all three of his sons went to college. And my dad became a small businessman after he served in the Navy during World War II. And now I'm here asking you to vote for me for president. That's 3 generations, from my grandfather to my father to me. And if we had time tonight, we could go through this crowd and we could have 1,000 stories like that. immigration is who we are. Look around us. And I think the Republicans are doing great damage to our nation by their insults and their attacks on immigrants. So, as your president, I will certainly work hard for comprehensive immigration reform, but I will also defend the executive orders that President Obama issued on behalf of dreamers. And I know we've got some dreamers here tonight. Because I want you to work hard in America, and I want you to make a contribution to building our economy. And there are so many examples of people who have. It's also important, though, we give the best possible education to everybody in this country so that you're prepared to be competitive. I will do what I can, working with the teachers of America and respecting the teachers of America, to do what will work in elementary and secondary education to give more young people the best possible start in life. But I'll tell you this, if we don't do something with early childhood education, if we don't help kids, and especially kids whose first language may not be English, if we don't give you a chance to get well prepared for school, then you're not going to go as far as you could. So that's why I believe those first 5 years of life are really important. The family is the first school, the parents are the first teachers, and we need to do more to help you prepare your children to be successful in school. And so I want to have universal pre-kindergarten that will give every child the opportunity to be prepared. And then on the other end, I want to make college affordable so that if you do decide to go to college, you can actually go and graduate. How many of the people in this crowd have student loans? How many have ever had student loans? I had student loans. I had to pay them back. My husband had them. He paid them back. But it wasn't like it is today, where it costs so much and the interest rates are so high. We have 40 million Americans with student loans. I want you to be able to refinance those loans to a lower interest rate and save thousands of dollars. You know, if a corporation can refinance its debt, then a young person in America ought to be able to refinance your debt. And then we need to make college affordable. I want to offer free community college and debt-free tuition at any public college or university so that you can afford to go, because here's what happens. If you're well off, even if your grades weren't that great, you will have the resources to go to college and graduate. But if you're middle class, or you're working, or you're poor, but you're just as ambitious, you're just as willing to do what it takes, you may not have the resources to start, or you may not have the resources to finish. I'm going to do everything I can so that any young person in America can get the job training you want, an apprenticeship if you want it, community college if you want it, 4-year college if you want it, at a price you can pay. And that you'll be able to pay it back as a percentage of the income that you earn. And if you do public service work like teaching or policing or firefighting, you will pay a lower rate to be able to go and get your education. Now, I also want to say the Republicans have tried 54 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act. 54 times. Now, if they get a Republican president, they'll succeed. That's up to you. I'll do my part, but I'm going to need each and every one of you to make sure that happens. I will defend the Affordable Care Act. 18 million people are now getting their health care through it. But I do want to make some changes that will improve it. I want to cut the cost of your out-of-pocket expenses. I want to cut the cost of prescription drugs that are skyrocketing beyond the affordability of Americans. I want to make sure that people with mental health problems get taken care of, just like people with physical health problems. I want to make sure that if you're a caregiver for somebody with Alzheimer's or autism or any other situation, like the professional caregivers or a family caregiver, that you've got some help. You know, we've got millions of people who are taking care of their loved ones, and we've got millions more who are working barely for the minimum wage to take care of people. We can't do that. We got to be smart about how we plan for caregiving as we all face the onslaught of Alzheimer's, or what happens when young people with autism get older. We've got to be prepared for that. And there's something else we need to treat right now, and that's addiction. 23 million people in this country have substance abuse problems, alcohol or drugs. And they can't get help even if they want it. Only 1 in 10 can get help. We've got to have more help and more support for families and for those who are dealing with the addicted. Because right now, they're ending up in jail or they're ending up in the streets, and that is not right, and we end up spending more money than we would. I'll tell you, I spend a lot of time in Iowa these days. Iowa has some good drug courts. I read about one the other day in western Iowa, and they've been doing good work helping folks. But they ran out of money, so they're shutting it down. Let me just tell you this little fact. It costs $3,500 for somebody to go through drug court, be tested to try to get them off drugs, get treatment. They go to prison, it costs $35,000. Economically, it makes no sense. If we treat people